I just want to start by saying that I'm Batman, the Dark Knight. I worked in the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. for 5 years, during which time I never one time ever read the Washington Post. I didn't ever spend one single fraction of a penny on the Washington Post, and I never read into the Washington Post at all. I know that a lot of people did and continue to do to this day, spend their time, first thing they do when they wake up in the morning is they read the Washington Post. They spend all their time in the morning drinking coffee and orange juice and eating a bagel and reading the Washington Post. That's what they do. It's part of their lives. It's part of their culture. Their grandmothers, their grandfathers, their mothers, their fathers grew up in North America reading newspapers, so they're socially programmed to read newspapers. Even in the 21st century, when a person can go online, the internet, like I do, and glean information about the world, about what's going on in communities, what's going on in the United States, what's going on in the world of business, entertainment, fashion, cooking, home and gardening, all these different things for free without even having to touch a newspaper, without even having to pick up a newspaper, without even having to spend any money to read the newspaper. Perhaps the cost of an internet connection, perhaps it's a free connection somewhere. The point is, you're not paying for a newspaper when you get your information for free on the internet. So I, Batman, in a smart way, smartly, never, ever, one time, as a crime fighter, I didn't have time to read the Washington Post. It was a huge waste of time. I didn't like the Washington Post agenda, their ulterior motives, their dirty politics. I don't like the Washington Post. They're a terrible newspaper. They have ugly, terrible, nasty, dirty attitudes about things in general. People are led to believe that they give favorable reviews of certain media, but it's really just a lure to reel you in. And I will give an example of how this occurred. This particular reporter wrote an article about the movie The Green Hornet and purported to be me, Batman, the Dark Knight, and said something about some envelope being found in front of Washington Post or somewhere on the street, some in front of some building, and it contained certain information and blah, 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 and it went into this elaborate bullshit. Yes, I, Batman the Dark Knight, use profanity because the Washington Post is fucking stupid. So, somebody at the Washington Post, purporting to be me, pretending to be me, wrote this article and as if it were narrated by me, as if I were the person talking in this scenario about the movie The Green Hornet. Oh, let me tell you this. I'm the real Batman. I am the real Bruce Wayne Dark Knight, and I was not that person who gave that narration, that unfavorable movie review of The Green Hornet. Now, I'll tell you this. The Washington Post has a history of defaming the characters of persons in the community, people in general, movies, entertainment, any things that are for media purposes, for entertainment purposes. The Washington Post, like a lot of old-time rags, in other words, obsolete, useless, worthless newspaper rags of ancient history, the 20th century, these newspapers have a history of employing critics to write reviews about things that you enjoy and downing those things, dissing those things, belittling those things, being condescending toward the things that you enjoy, that you like. The Washington Post recently, in this article that I was referring to at the beginning of this report to the people, had gone on to utilize this ruse, as I said, and say that in the beginning of this so-called review of the movie, that suggests in the beginning of the review that it is going to be a favorable review, it goes on to at some point say that The Green Hornet is a silly superhero movie, and that I, Batman the Dark Knight, have referred to The Green Hornet as a silly superhero movie. The movie The Green Hornet is an amazing movie. It's a 5-star movie, and it is not a 3-star movie as this freelance reviewer rated the movie in the Washington Post. Oh no. The Green Hornet is the #1 movie in America. But the Washington Post wants you to believe that it gave an honest, objective, unbiased, critical analysis, review, favorable, mind you. They want you They want you to believe that they gave a favorable review of the movie The Green Hornet, when in fact they did the complete and total opposite. A truly favorable movie review does not insult the movie in any way, shape, or form by way of second person narration, third person narration. It just doesn't do that. This is not a favorable review by the Washington Post that you see in the Washington Post, Friday, January 14, 2011. Look it up, check it out, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. And I quote, "But really, I just want to make it clear that I am personally offended that someone would make a silly superhero movie. That's unacceptable. They couldn't even get a dark and complicated director, such as Christopher Nolan, to direct it. Instead, it's directed by Michael Gondry." Okay, end quote. Listen, I didn't say that. That's what the person who wrote this article for the Washington Post said, and went on to say that I, Batman, have said about the movie The Green Hornet. Why would I say something? Listen, if I wanted to give a favorable review of The Green Hornet, which I have, in which I do, and which I intend to continue doing, because it's an awesome movie, why would I ever slip in the limited amount of space that we have in newspaper columns and just in the world in general? Because, you know, the internet is running out of domain space. The world has to conserve energy, right? And resources. Well, hey, listen, think about what I'm saying here. Seriously, take this into consideration and, you know, analyze it in the context of where I'm coming from. If the Washington Post truly wanted to give this movie a favorable review, they would not say anything remotely indicating that the movie was a super silly, superficial, stupid fucking movie as they did in this article. And then what do they do? What do they do? What do they do? They laugh it off because, you know, that's what these types of dastardly foes do. Oh, no, Batman, what do you mean it was all in fun? We were just pretending to be you because, you know, you're a light-hearted guy. No, I'm not. I'm a crime fighter. Okay, I fight crime. And I fought crime on the streets of Washington, D.C. for 5 years, and I never read your stupid fucking newspaper. Okay? It's worthless. Batman doesn't read the Washington Post because it's there's no reason to. He gets your information on the internet. Why spend any money? Someone might argue coupons. The coupons are worth the price of the newspaper. No, fuck that. I don't live in Washington, D.C. anymore. Okay, I moved on to fight crime in other parts of the world. Washington, D.C. decided that it wanted to champion causes of these deleterious, invective, dirty people. And that would be and is the Washington Post and these types of businesses and companies and organizations. It's Gotham City. It's fucking Gotham, corrupt city. Unequivocal, quintessential. They didn't want my services any longer. So there they are, the Washington Post. And look what they're doing. They're pretending to be me. So I moved on. And, you know, the price of coupons, I mean, what? Listen, you don't need the newspaper, okay? Regardless of what they say, despite what they say, in spite of what they say, it just doesn't make any sense. Why do you need the Washington Post? I'm Batman, and I never used the Washington Post. I never read it. Not one single time, ever in space-time. But some people decided that they wanted to waste their lives, and then they complain about the economy. I don't have so much money, and my job isn't paying me what it used to, and the property taxes in Washington, D.C., or Northern Virginia, or Maryland, or on the East Coast, or in the Midwest, or in the Northwest, in Seattle, because I don't have money, and the economy sucks. Well, what are you doing spending your time reading the fucking Washington Post, especially when it purports to be me, Batman, the Dark Knight, and it's dissing the movie that most people in America were looking forward to, and that they're embracing, and that they're loving and having joy and glee about, okay? Because I love the Green Hornet. He's a fellow crime fighter. Why would I ever say anything bad about the Green Hornet movie? No, that wasn't me. That was the Washington Post newspaper, okay? Fuck them. I'm Batman, the Dark Knight, and they are pretending to be me. This is not right, okay? This is impersonation on their part. You need to listen to me, Batman, the Dark Knight. I'm tuning out of the Washington Post newspaper because I'm a crime fighter. And that's what we need to do in order to get things straight in America and get this economy back on track. I don't waste a nanosecond on the Washington Post. Not at all. Because they're part of the problem in Gotham City. And once people realize that they have been misled and deceived all along by this time-wasting, time-consuming newspaper print ink thing that is just junk and that is better, coming from other sources of reliable, real information that has integrity and that actually means something and it is considerable and significant and worthwhile, then America will be on the right path. Until then, Washington, D.C.'s Washington Post corrupt organization known as the Washington Post, what do? They tell people, we're the Washington Post. We control your minds. Every day of your life, you're going to pick up this ink paper thing and you're going to open it, contraption, and it's going to have all this mind-fucking information that means nothing in the world about your life, how to get your life back on track and make money and do things, because in that time space, in that particular time space, you could be fighting crime, like me, Batman, the Dark Knight, doing things to ensure your future livelihoods, careers, income, revenue, streams. Yes, things that are conducive to the goals of America and safe communities. No, the Washington Post, they want to mind pimp you. They want to pimp your minds, to redirect you, divert you, distract you, deter you, and defer you to all this other nonsense. No, you don't need that. You don't need the Washington Post. I'm fucking Batman, the Dark Knight, and I'm telling you, they impersonated me, all right? And it's a Gotham City down and dirty, low down, dirty fucking scum scoundrel move on their part, okay? And I had to rebuttal their fucking nonsense. This is the newspaper that tells you that whoever they tell you is going to be the political leader for the year, that's who gets elected, because they've brainwashed you and you've seen my movies, okay? The Joker, Penguin, the Riddler, all these different deviant psychopaths, sociopaths, Arkham Asylum, okay? This newspaper is working with those villains. It is a villainous organization. And it tells you every year, we choose who is going to be elected to office. Whoever is mentioned in this newspaper. Is this not America? Is this not the country where you can think for yourself? This newspaper endorses a certain candidate every year annually, and you're hypnotized into just going for the okie doke and just doing whatever the Washington Post tells you to do? Of all the trillions, quadrillions, and more sources of information throughout our universe, the Washington Post is part of the problem in Gotham City, and the problem is solved when you tune out. When you tune out. Pick other sources of information. You don't need the Washington Post. And when they tell you that they're Batman, Batman never disses fellow crime fighters in any way, shape, or form ever in space-time. And that's coming from me, Batman, the Dark Knight. Fuck the Washington Post.